Hi, this presentation is for anyone who is thinking about purchasing a number 360 bed or already has one or needs any troubleshooting issues that they need to do. For those of you who are looking to get a new bed, I think the simplest thing I can say, I was an employee there for almost 4 years, so I know a lot about the do's and don'ts of what you should be prepared for. First rule is if you're going to be using either your remote or smartphone to operate the bed, always make sure you have your network name written down properly and also your password. Make sure you specify the correct network name, have it written down, and for the password, always make sure you specify capital letters, lowercase letters, special characters, and or numbers. A good idea if you have Xfinity as an internet provider. A good idea, and you can if you have the voice remote for that bed, they'll do a software update. This is the whole reason I'm telling you this part. You can actually take your remote and say, show me my Wi-Fi password. Sometimes depending on your internet connection, it'll populate on screen and it'll show you exactly what your internet password is if you either didn't write it down, someone changed it, or you just don't remember it. Or look on the back of your router modem, look for either the sticker or the etching, and the beds can only operate on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency. A lot of people have that defaulted to it, but if you have a dual band or you make your home internet connection or your system a little too complicated, sometimes you can run into issues. So just always know that the beds can only run on the lower frequency, the 2.4. In case of the actual beds themselves, there's probably about 3 or 4 options you can go with. One is you can always do a mattress only. You can do it in a twin, full size queen or a king. As far as installation goes, like for the beds, for the mattress onlys, all you need is just either a wall outlet or a power strip to plug for them to plug the pump into. We'll just see the 2 prongs, not 3 ones for the grounded outlets. Those are actually necessary for the king and the queen adjustable base. So make sure you have a grounded outlet and make sure your power or your wall outlet, if you're going to use that, or even one if you plug your power strip into the wall outlet, make sure it's not like on a wall switch, like where you would either plug a lamp or a light into, like they're turning it on and off. Make sure you figure out if your wall outlet has power to it all the time, because that's going to be very crucial. Because if you don't have power going to it, a lot of the times if you actually turn off the switch but your bed is plugged into that, sometimes one or both sides of the bed can deflate if you have an older home. If you have a ranch house that the bed's going into, just make sure your bedroom is nice and cleared out. They have easier installation with these beds with the adjustables. If you have a ranch house, usually if it's a 2-story or the house is like more than 50 or 60 years old, but your bedroom's on the second floor, more often than not, if you have a queen adjustable, a lot of the times they might have issues getting it up the stairs, either if your ceiling is too low or if your stairwell is not wide enough. Sometimes you can watch videos to if you wanted to do it yourself. It can void the warranty if you try to take the queen apart to get each piece up the stairs. But if you want to do that, just make sure you account for every part of that adjustable base, because you don't want to have to take the thing apart just to get it upstairs. Just kind of be out of luck again. It's possible, but I strongly just caution be careful if you do intend up wanting to do that, because with the queen beds, like I said, with older homes, it's a lot more difficult to get the adjustable base up there compared to either a full-size one. If you have space constraints, because the queen is 60 by about 82 inches long, If you have a small house, I would actually make sure you ask them for split integrated queen. Kings already come in two pieces, but they're easier to get up the stairs. But queens, depending on the dimensions of like your older style box spring, uh, getting it up the stairs because their dimensions on that, all the walls are about I'd say 8 or 9 inches I think deep. So uh, getting it into oddly constructed homes or older homes can always be a bit of a problem. So if you're going for the queen, just make sure. I would actually just prefer you get the split integrated because it'll save a lot of headaches. Because if they can't get the base up the stairs, I know a lot of the workers, don't want to like force it up the stairs and like possibly cause damage to your wall. So just for that, just be on the safe side and get an integrated split. Unless you're if you have like wide open hallways or you have no issues at all with the space constraints for the queen. Then you should be fine. But just make sure any house probably built before I'd say like 1970 or maybe 1960. Just double check those measurements. Always it's better to be safe than sorry and take a measurement. What else was there? For people getting queens or kings with like furniture bed frame boxes, always make sure the inside is completely cleared out. You don't need anything like in the way. All those adjustables will have their own adjustable legs. Sometimes if you have like higher walls, higher than probably like 6 or 7 inches, you might need to get extended legs that'll actually slide into the cylindrical leg parts of the actual base themselves. So it'll at least give you an option to prop the bed up. If the bed's too high, you might need to either trim down your sidewalls or even get rid of the whole bed frame surround completely. But if your walls are too high, there's two side buttons on either side of the base there that let you lower the bed if you push the button once, or if you use either your remote or your Sleep IQ phone app. You can raise it up to a certain height, and there's an option for the flex fit part of the base. I think it's always underneath the bed control for the bed itself, where if you go to the second option down, I believe it's for the flex base, you can tap that, and there's an option for you to set like a favorite bed, like a favorite mattress height, for when you raise and lower the head of the feet there. But that's what that button's for. So if you have like any walls around like your bed there and the walls are blocking it, or that might be able to maybe maneuver like the bed a little bit, because you want at least like maybe an inch or two of space to get your finger in there to push that button to make it go up or down depending on what your setting is. But you always want to make sure that you have those cross support rails that are underneath your existing box springs. Those need to be gone. Those can't be in the way, because when they're bringing your base in there, whether it's a king or a queen, they don't want to be tripping over any of that metal or wood that's like in the way there, because they could accidentally break something or knock over a lamp. That's something you don't want. So just make sure that area is cleared out before they get there. If you have any interior on your bed frame support lips, like those pieces of metal or wood that are supporting those cross rails going across, those should be taken out as well. I know the upholstered headboard stuff that they sell, usually the ones that Sleep Number has, those are about half an inch or less. If you have lips in there that are they shouldn't be. If they're wider than that, you just want to get rid of them completely. Like take a mallet or a screwdriver. They shouldn't even be there, because then you're going to have problems getting the base in there, and it could get lopsided. So make sure the interior of your bed frame, if you do have one, has at least 72 inches. 75 inches wide of clearance for the width of the base, and at least 82 inches length, just so they can get the king in there. The queen is a 60 by 80, so you'll have a bit more room in there to play with. But on the safe side, always just make sure like those interior side lips are completely gone. For people who have corner, like maybe like bed posts that are on the corners, like bottom and the top there, Uh, Make sure that they're not in the way, or you might need to actually take a saw or something like that to trim them down or eliminate that, because if you do have those like square posts that are usually about 3 or 4 inches on each side in the corners there, they will present problems. I had a guy about maybe 2 years ago where he had to end up taking his whole bed frame apart because of those corner posts sticking out from the corners there. We couldn't even get his king adjustable bed to fit in there. So just make sure you're wary of that. If you have a kind of bed frame where it's like that, and there's like that centerpiece that has those kind of like metal, kind of like support hooks that get pushed into those little skinny slots and get pushed into like that. I think there's sometimes like a metal pin that kind of holds that from like falling completely. But if you have like that middle piece too for a king bed or a queen, however the style is, that needs to be removed as well. And I would actually probably see if you can actually take out like that wooden support where that metal thing kind of like clips or supports onto. I would recommend just like getting rid of that middle piece completely, because a lot of the times the salespeople in these stores, and it doesn't matter like what state you're in. I'm not knocking them, but their goal is to sell a bed to you that day, and if you need to do a back and forth email, which is the way I think they should be done, taking measurements is always better than just guessing, because a lot of the times, they'll just guess or tell you the bed will fit. Make sure that, at least measure 2 or 3 times. Like I said, king is 75 by about 80, 82 inches long. Queen is about 60 by the same dimensions. The length of both of the adjustable beds is the same. The width is not. As far as the Sleep IQ app goes for operating the bed itself, I can actually show you an example on what it does look like. Again, when you are setting up this app, you will need to make sure that you have your Sleep IQ, whatever email address you did use to register this with. Make sure you have it written down on paper or excuse me, in the app itself. But this is what it'll look like. This is the screen you'll see when you go to set up your actual app to begin with. This is actually the virtual bed that you'll see when you're logged completely into it. But what you actually do need is if the good ones, they'll actually have you register this hopefully in the store. If you do it online, you always want to register your new account. So you would do that. You would set up whatever email address you want to use to log into the app. And they'll always have you designate a certain password to log into the app itself. You don't need to create 2 separate email addresses for the app. Sometimes people have done that. Usually you only do that if you want to set up each person has maybe an individual sleep routine, which you can actually set up in the app for maybe having your foot warmers turned on at a certain time, like during the week, or anything else you want to see how well you're sleeping at night. But typically you can both share the same email address. You don't need more than one. But you would go to the login, which is that button here. You would have your email address on the top line, Hotmail, Gmail, whatever, Yahoo, whatever you want to use. And as far as the password goes, you always want to have a special character. It doesn't matter at any point, like when you're typing in your password, where that special character is. But a couple examples are $, exclamation point, the pound sign, or the hashtag symbol that people are saying it nowadays. Any kind of special character you want to use, just make sure you have that just written down either on a postcard or somewhere maybe like near your bed on your nightstand, just so you won't lose it. So you can always log in there. Usually you only need to log in there at one time, but you'll always need the special character, at least 1 or 2 numbers, and an uppercase letter. Those are they're kind of the password rules for actually remembering that the one time. So once you have all that stuff in there, you can log into it. There's a option for choosing a default bed and sleeper on the device. Usually if you have a king or queen bed, you could just, tap the little grayed out where your name is and just go from there. And you'll see the main screen. This is what you'll actually see when you're logged in there all the way. The bed control for the app is in the bottom middle. So for depending on what your setup is there, you'll have your virtual bed up top with your designated sleep number setting, which is your pressure control there. It goes from all the way from a lowest setting of 5 up to 100. For either the mattress or the adjustables, you'll have your responsive air setting, which you can actually toggle on or off. Right there's a little green thing where you can switch it to on or off. Some people, they're light sleepers, so they will just turn it on maybe 10 or 15 minutes before they're going to bed. Sometimes people don't want it on at all. The good thing is when you go into your sleep number setting, this is your actual control here. So right now it's at 100. But you'll use the up and down arrows to adjust your pressure, and there's a little blue box here. This will allow you to actually set a favorite sleep setting. So you always want to work your way from 100, which is the firmest setting, down to whatever number feels comfortable for you to do that. So, but once you have your number in there, usually you'll be able to figure out within sometimes 2 or 3 weeks at the most what number you're comfortable at. Usually if you have a sleep score between, I'd say maybe 70 to 90, anywhere within that range, you're doing just fine. If your number's 65 or lower, that's probably when you're, those red flags are going off saying, I'm not getting a good enough night's sleep. Then you can just go back into your sleep number setting and change that to what you want. So, and then when you have the number set on the bottom here, it's kind of a little bit blurry on this video, but there's a save as favorite with a little hollowed out kind of heart where you would tap that. So if your number happened to be maybe a 65, 25, 35, whatever it is, you would first set your number while you're on the bed, because it will always need to go off your body weight first. That's the only way it's going to be accurate. But you lock that in there by hitting that little set as favorite option on the bottom of the screen, and that will actually save it to the little blue square here. So you could either tap that each night when you go to sleep, or a lot of the times too, and this is actually a convenient feature for the beds, it'll actually lower down to your number automatically once it senses your weight on the bed, when you go to sleep each night. So how that happens is there's an air hose that actually will go up into your bed from underneath it, no matter which kind of bed setup you have there. But when you're laying on your bed, your weight it'll push that air pressure through that tubing, which goes to the pump. And that's what we'll tell the pump, on this particular side, if you slept on the left or right side of the bed, doesn't matter. It's so I'm feeling this pressure going through the tube on this particular side. So for the white side, which is always going to be the left side of the bed, or the blue tube, which is always the right side, those are the two color schemes there. Then it lowers that pressure to that desired setting, because on that particular side you saved it there already. So then you're good to go. Sometimes though, and I'll go back to this with responsive air, that second option here on the bottom with that little green thing is there. Sometimes if you're actually, maybe just wanted to just lay down in the bed, or you're just maybe sitting on that side of the bed there, maybe just for a few seconds, or you wanted to, tie your shoe or just sit down for a second there, you can actually turn that little thing off, which will disengage that responsive air. So, because I know when that's triggered on, a lot of the times, sometimes people will notice that if they sit on the side of the bed there, or if they just maybe want to lay down for, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, they're not actually going to sleep there, it will actually engage that, and it'll lower down your setting to your number. But if you just wanted a firm bed there, you can just toggle that off, and that will prevent your bed from going down to your settings. So you can always, tap that, green that on later to enable it, and usually it takes maybe I'd say 5 minutes at the most for it to re-engage, and then when you're going to sleep at whatever time you do, it'll then lower it back down there. So that's always something to be mindful of. And then your sleep session, which is this little heartbeat at the bottom here, that'll show your score there. So you'll see green, orange, and red colors will represent that thing. Orange is whenever the bed senses you moving around, like in your sleep at all. So usually when you take that time within that 2 or 3 week span to you're trying to find out what your number might be. Because when you go into the stores, they'll give you a demo of trying to find your initial seat number setting. That's kind of like a rough estimate or like a guess because not all the styles of beds are the same. So your number might be different on a C4 bed than it might be on like a P6 or an I8 or an M7 or any other. So it all depends, and how much of that comfort foam on top is actually supporting all your pressure points, your spinal alignment, whether you're a stomach, side, or back sleeper. All those factors are taken into account. So uh, that's what will actually be the determining factor of what your sleep score is. But like I said, if you're within the 70s, 80s, or 90s range, there's nothing for you to worry about. You're doing fine. Now, I don't have an adjustable bed myself, but there's an option on the Sleep IQ app where it'll say FlexFit Base. That's where you'll actually get all your controls. So you'll have all your presets up top there. On the top left corner, there's an option for setting like your favorite like angled position with the hydraulic arms there. So you always need to adjust that first, either on your handheld remote or the Sleep IQ app itself. And it's essentially the same thing on the app as it is the remote, where when you're actually in the app itself for the FlexFit base, which is underneath the I believe it's either the sleep number setting or yeah, I think it is underneath the sleep number setting. It'll be between that and the responsive. So with the adjustable, it'll be that section option down from your virtual bed up top there. So there'll be two white arrows, just like on the handheld remote, where you would just push. You always want to push and hold down the arrows because that's what's going to engage that Bluetooth setting on your phone to actually communicate with the bed itself. So you push and hold that. It'll take like maybe a second or two, but because like the new hydraulic system that they're using is a lot quieter than the old one was, where it kind of had like a little bit of like a whiny noise, where it was like raising up the hydraulic system like for the head of the feet there. So, but you'll see your bed go up and down both at the head of the foot, but you do need to tap on the either the left or right side of that flex space option where it'll highlight the part of the bed that you want to control. So for and it's pretty easy. Like the head of the bed will have a little kind of like a virtual pillow kind of built into it, so you can either tap on the head of the foot. It'll actually say those two words, like kind of right by those arrows, what you're controlling. So that's how that works. But as far as the only other things go, you can set up a routine in the app there. That's actually going to be on the very bottom here. It says like view routines. There's a little bell here, so you can tap on that little box. Then it'll give you an option for creating a schedule. You can tap on that next, and that'll give you, this is all your days of the week right here. So if you have your like a set schedule for maybe like turning on your foot warmers. I know the dual temp does not work with the app. That would be a handheld remote only feature of the bed there. So I apologize like for that. But you can set up a routine for like, oh, I want my foot warmers, like on a Thursday or Saturday night to turn on at approximately like 9 o'clock at night. So when they stick your foot warmers on the mattress, always be sure that you have them placed at like where you want them to, because depending on what side of the bed you're sleeping on, if you're 5'4", 6'1", 6'5", whatever like your height is, always have them have you lay on the bed first before they zip up the outer shell cover of the bed, so they can actually put those heating elements. They actually stick to the foam. So make sure that they have you lay on that bed first before you do that, because otherwise, if it's too high, it's heating more of like your leg or your calf area than it is like your actual foot, because the pad itself, I think, as I remember correctly, it's probably at least 12 inches by maybe like 20 or 24 inches like wide. So if you do get the foot warmers, they actually come in a set of two. The wires are kind of skinny, so they don't heat up like as fast as a typical heating pad would. So usually it's about like maybe I'd say at the most like between 27 and 30 minutes before they actually will warm up. So I'd actually recommend having them on a high heat setting, because lower and medium, often a lot of the times I've heard people commenting that they can feel the heat, but it's kind of barely there. So always have it on high. So it's always a gentle heat though. It's not designed the same way a heating pad is, where it would heat up in 30 seconds. These take a bit of time because the old generation they had where uh, they would actually be heating up too hot too quick, and I actually had to go out to some house. I think it was maybe early 2019, and actually replace the element because when we saw the foam that the pad with the actual pocket was adhered to with the element inside it, I actually saw kind of burn or char marks on the foam, which is not good. So, um, but another thing you want to avoid, if at all possible, unless you wanted to, make an extra chore for yourself, that's totally up to you. Is there's an option for the beds called dual temp for the bed itself. So unless you use a ceiling fan, have your window open at night, or have some kind of fan on to kind of cool you as you sleep, you can use this where you can have the membrane, which is probably about maybe an inch thick or so, maybe a little bit thicker. It actually uses a gray hose that actually hooks up to a compressed air like a wind machine. That'll actually have a grounded plug to you, so you need to be wary of that, where either plug it into your wall outlet or a power strip. But that'll blow both cool and warm air into the membrane, and you can either leave it uncovered on top of your bed or cover it with the sheet. It doesn't matter. There'll be little tiny holes so the air can freely flow through no matter what. So you can have it blow. There's 3 settings for warm, 3 settings for cold. Warm is the up option, so you have 3 different settings for that. Cool is the down. There's 3 settings for that, or you could actually have it on and it'll just blow room temperature air. But on the remote, you can actually either sync it up to your bed's handheld remote, but the dual temp actually comes with its own remote too, and there's a virtual fan that you'll see spinning on the screen itself. So and then there's a power button where you can power the device down too. But the only reason I bring that up is because there'll be instances that I've come across where people have gotten both the foot warmers for either the king or the queen beds, because they do not work for the integrated. There's no wires at all coming up from those integrated box springs. Those are just the hoses, where it's a flat surface and it won't adjust. But for the adjustable king and queen base, the heating elements plug into, there's a wire that comes up from, there's a handle on the side of the base where that button is. It lets you raise and lower your base, but they would stick to the foam, and then the membrane for the dual temp would go on top of that. So there's a gentle heat, but considering how thick that membrane is for the dual temp, 9 times out of 10 you wouldn't even be able to feel that heat, because that membrane material is blocking that heat from even getting through. So you would have to every night, if you wanted to either feel your foot warmers, take that whole membrane off, stick it behind your bed or in your closet, whatever you want to do. But I kind of always thought it defeated the purpose of having both the foot warmer elements and the dual temp at the same time. So the choice is yours. If you wanted to do that, fine. But personally myself, I wouldn't recommend it. Trying to think of what else I should mention here as far as the bed install goes. I already mentioned the password before at the beginning of the video, your network name. Also in regards to that, the beds can only operate either with the remote or the Sleep IQ app on your phone. You always want to make sure you're at least within a minimum of 8 feet of the bed. So you wouldn't be able to, and I've gotten this before to people, just so I can, mess with my girlfriend or my husband or whatever, from 6 miles away. Unfortunately, it doesn't work from that far away. I know Bluetooth devices have kind of a limited range. That's actually how the bed is controlled, with the Bluetooth app. Handheld remotes for the bed, those have a direct radio thing in the bed, so that's how they're able to work with it. Phone apps are always Bluetooth. They don't have that same circuitry built into the phone. That's how they operate. But same kind of with the remotes. You always want to be at least within 8 or 10 feet of the bed whenever you're going to operate it. I know the remotes always come with 2 AA batteries. Usually those last about, I'd say, 6 to 9 months, because they're motion remotes. So they will fall asleep if you either put them on your nightstand or leave it on the bed. They'll just fall asleep after 10 seconds, which will help conserve the battery power. But with the remotes, or with the Bluetooth, I should say, on the phones, you always want to make sure you're at least within 8 feet of the bed. Same goes with where you're having the bed installed. You always want to make sure that at a minimum you have your bed at least within, I'd say, no more than about maybe 22 feet away from where your Wi-Fi router or your access point is, unless you have uh, maybe an unusually strong signal from whatever your provider is. A lot of the times, like if someone has like a router all the way like in their basements, I know with a lot of high rises, like either in cities or sometimes if you're like way out like in a rural area where your internet signal is not that strong. Always make sure you're within that range because a lot of the times either the remote handheld or the Bluetooth app on the Sleep IQ app can get a bit finicky. So because sometimes it'll say like warning signal lost or cannot read the things. 9 times out of 10, it's because of where your Wi-Fi in your home is in relation to where your bed is at. So if you lived on like the third floor of a high-rise building somewhere, or you own like a two or like a three flat house, because I've actually had that happen before where someone's home internet network router or their modem was all the way in the basement, but their master bedroom or their main bedroom was all the way on the third floor. Uh, that's way too far away, and they got lucky because they had actually gotten two remotes, sent to them. We always carry the remotes on the trucks, unless like there's a reason where they would mail you a handheld remote separately from the store because they always come from a UPS distributor. But if you're too far away from where your router is compared to where your bedroom is, router could be here and your bed is like way over here, or like it might be on top of each other like straight up. But like I said, the Bluetooth has a limited range on these beds, so always make sure you're within at least like 20 feet minimum. 22 to 25 might be pushing it, but just always be mindful of that. Always make sure you have your pets locked away before the techs get there. Usually they give an automated phone call about 2 days prior to before your bed gets delivered to your house. If you don't get that call, I'd actually either call the number in your pamphlet or email, whatever you have, to make sure that they're still coming. Because unfortunately, this past Thanksgiving, I think it was Thanksgiving 2021. There was a 2-day break that we had where someone was supposed to get just a single headboard delivered to their house, and because unfortunately there was either a communication breakdown or no one told anybody or updated anyone what was going on, we came in there that following Saturday, and there was supposed to be a headboard for a customer that just they didn't get their delivery because no one like told anybody like if it had shown up at the warehouse or put a label on it. So always make sure to give them a call. Trying to think of anything else that I should have mentioned as far as the bed install goes. Always make sure when you're registering the Sleep IQ app, if you didn't do it in the store, I told you before about the email and the password for the app already. There'll always be, and this will probably be in your email, or they may have written it down if they're good at what they're doing. You'll have an order number that you'll need when you're registering for the app for the first time. So when you're setting up your actual Sleep IQ app, it's a free app, doesn't cost anything. This is in lieu pretty much to if you don't want a handheld remote. You'll always need the order number, which is very critical when you're setting this up for the very first time. Order number will always start with 9501. For probably about 3 years, they were using 9500, but probably because they had so many more people get these beds now, they finally moved it to 9501. So you'll need that 9501. You'll need that whole number sequence when you're registering the app from the get-go. And always make sure they have your address correct too. Whether or not you're getting a delivery, if you moved, they're not going to know. You're going to have to tell them that. Like if you move to another address, I've had that where people have, they like moved recently, but like they didn't let the company know, and they needed either an install or like a disassembly because they were moving. Always, let them know what your updated address is, because otherwise that's going to be like something else where you'll call them for like a bed disassembly, and like I said, the good ones will ask like, well, has your address changed or what is your current address? Always be mindful of that. Trying to think of anything else I may have mentioned. With the mattresses, your bed sheets always get tucked underneath like the mattress. I've done a handful of service calls where sometimes people accidentally pull their sheet materials too far, and it'll end up underneath that riser platform that the bed sits on, just with the adjustables, and uh, there's sensors in the actual base, so they go to push that button or flatten out their bed with the remote or the phone app, and it won't go all the way flat because the bed stopped because there's something. I think there's something blocking it in the way, so that's why it stops about maybe 20 degrees short of going completely flat. So make sure your sheets are done right. Trying to think of anything else. I did the Wi-Fi. I did the bed frame stuff. Headboard bracket wise, always make sure to let them know too if you have a headboard in your house that you want connected to the base, because if you don't tell them that, they won't know unless they have all the ingredients. So if you have a headboard that you wanted attached to the base, you can either do it with the metal frame that they can provide, or you can use your own. Sometimes though with the headboards, if you use like your own metal frame, if you have one already, sometimes the metal isn't thick enough, so there's really nowhere for them to attach it to if you have an existing collapsible metal frame. A lot of the times, like with their ones, they're kind of painted in a silver paints over their steel ones, but they'll have to push it probably against your wall depending on how your headboard is always usually tends to be more top heavy, so make sure it's pushed up against the wall, because if it's a little bit away from the wall, because the lower weight materials are always on the bottom, if you push on it, it's going to wobble. I've told people that before too. So make sure you order a bracket kit, which costs I think about $40 from them, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the only other thing, and I showed this before too, is if you don't want to have a tech come out to do a service call, if you have any air loss, usually if you're experiencing air loss, sometimes you can always recommend people like buying a hose kit. That's usually for the mattress only type of beds if you don't want the adjustable base, or if you don't want to buy their separate integrated bases. If your box springs are completely destroyed, they're still in good condition. You can just get a pump sent out to your house. But like I said before, this is the diagram. There's little kind of dots I made on like the one side of like the pump here. These are all your indicator lights. There's usually 6 of them. So if you don't want to, pay like $100 or whatever that they try to charge you for a service call for like a pump replacement, this is just for either a king or a queen bed. Like I said before, the white tube is going to be up top here. The blue tube is on the bottom here. Usually they send you these in like a little, like 6 by 10 inch like cardboard box. This is your COM cable here. This will communicate with both the pump and the control box for your whole bed for the adjustables. And then this is your power cord right here. So you want to make sure that these are all plugged in. Whites and blue for the air hoses down here. This is your black COM cable, which can be this is actually connected to the actual base itself on the left side. So this just plugs into a little port. It just when you plug it in, you'll hear it a little click. That means it's clicked into place. And then this is the power cord. So for your pump here, all your indicator lights are on there. The 3 ones that you'll need to have lit up no matter what are going to be there'll be the power, which is a little circle with a little white line going down the straight middle of it. That means you are getting power to your pump itself. Second one, which should be there'll be a connection thing there that will show. I want to say it might be the Sleep Number logo. I'm not exactly sure it was, but when the first 2 lights come on, that's a good sign. Then you'll have a 3-bar Wi-Fi light that will start blinking. Usually if it's blinking slow and steady, that means you have a good connection. If it's blinking like too rapidly, that means the bed's trying to get your Wi-Fi signal from your home internet, but it's not quite getting it. So sometimes you have to either do unplug the pump itself or unplug the grounded plug from the wall to do like just a complete whole system reset. That's why I was kind of emphasizing earlier where you want to make sure your bed is at least within like 20 feet minimum of where your Wi-Fi signal is, so it can get a nice strong connection. The more lights that get lit up on the pump, there's a total of 6 of them, the stronger your connection will be. So always make sure you're mindful of that. Make sure also you have any dogs or cats locked up in your house. Like installation typically can take, depending on how ready you guys are, from 30 minutes up to 45. Usually it takes longer if stuff is not prepared. So just make sure you're ready for your delivery. You'll have a lot less headaches, a lot less stress. Make sure the techs have a clear pathway to get to your bed. If you have any fragile items on the walls, picture frames, fragile things going up and down your hallway, just make sure anything you don't want possibly or accidentally damaged is just taken off the walls. That'll just make things a lot easier. We have done claims in the past, like through the company because, stuff has either gotten broken on accident or people have taken mattresses out because the mattress is so thick and heavy and stuff gets knocked on off the walls. It happens, if you're getting appliances delivered to your house, you'd probably do the same thing. You'd just make sure there's a clear pathway to getting that stuff in there. So just make sure you're ready to go for the delivery. Make sure your bedroom's cleared out. The one thing I will stress is they don't take, they only take mattresses and box springs, and they have like your old stuff they'll get rid of. They won't take any personal furniture, and they won't take any like metal frames out of your house. They'll put it by the curb or maybe like by your garbage can, but there's things that they won't do. They won't let the Sleep Number employees do just because of like company liability. Furniture, especially, and they don't do disassemblies and like moves like in their own trucks strictly because they don't provide any of the transport vehicles with any kind of protective like cloth or any type of like tarps to like keep your like base or any of your bed materials like from getting scratched up. So that's kind of why they rely on movers. So if you are actually getting a bed disassembled, always just call them. Always call the company to have them do that because 10 out of 10 times I've seen it where moving companies attempt to take apart your bed, and usually something either gets broken, they take apart more materials of the bed than they should, or stuff gets lost. So just make sure you call us. We do disassemblies and they do reassemblies too. But just make sure, just be prepared. That's all I can ask is just, measure things at least 2 or 3 times. Don't just, take a salesperson's like word for it. Sometimes they'll throw around like, the beds will fit. Unless they've actually sent a rep or they've actually been in your house, it's kind of stupid to assume that they would know, like, what will or won't work in your home when they have not seen the inside of it. So, just use common sense, and hope this video was informative to you, and have a good night's sleep. Take care.